We all know the cousin that is queer, the uncle that, has
me.
been we talk about allyship. People want to help when it's trendy. Black Lives Matter happened. 2020, everybody wants to be anti-racist, all of these beautiful things. As queer people, we exist everywhere, and we always have. All of these African countries, the LGBTQ community always existed, but it's because of colonialism. So for me, it's actually understanding our history, what we had in the past.
We talk about gay rights, but we think of a man.
Yeah.
And we think of men, and men in the gay community, almost that we deny that we still carry toxic masculinity.
Patriarchy's kind of...
We deny it.
I'm so glad to be here. I feel like I was saying earlier, it feels like we've been friends online for ages, but we just never met. And we've been saying, yes, we're going to meet, but we didn't. I'm Aisha, Shaibu, Lenoir. I tend to do many things. I have loads of queer jobs. Over the years, I've kind of transitioned from being in the science industry as a research scientist to now doing a lot of community things. And one of the spaces you'll find me is at the Common Press in East London. I'm one of the directors there. And then when I'm not at the Common Press, you find me traveling. So I run a LGBTQ travel company. And also I volunteer for UK Black Pride. So this year UK Black Pride will be celebrating our 20th anniversary. So
that is crazy.
The girl has grown.
Yes.
Yes. So many wonderful things that we're celebrating this year. And I have a wonderful wife, Lexi. So I'll be talking a little bit about everything.
That's cute. I love that. Can we start with the Common Press?
Let's go.
Let's dive straight into that. How did it start? What was the process? How long ago? Tell us the whole origin story.
It was drama. Creating spaces isn't always so easy, but it started a few years ago, back in 2021, when it started as a collective with some allies who are like, hey, we've got spaces. Do you want to create an LGBTQ space for the community? And so we started that journey where we had a bar, we had the bookshop, we had an event space. And, during the pandemic, everybody wanted something a little bit different. We didn't want to be in big clubs anymore. We wanted more intimate things, different things, sober options, ways of just existing during the day, not just at night, So that kind of started happening, and it went really well, I think. But then I'll say last year, our investors were like, hey, things are a bit difficult. We want to focus on other things, i.e. money, which is okay. When we started, we were always supposed to be a community space, somewhere that we can make spaces accessible, because it is very difficult, and it is difficult to find spaces that are fully inclusive and diverse, and that's what the Common Press is essentially. It's this beautiful intersectional bookshop cafe. It's all about celebrating diverse authors. Our titles, we stock about 7,000 books, and all these books focus on trans-inclusive feminism, eco-politics, anti-colonialism, self-care. We've got a whole section for young people and families and children. So it's somewhere where I think we always wanted when we were younger. So it's this beautiful space. I tend to say it's a bit of a sanctuary for storytelling and community.
Yeah, I
got so giddy and fuzzy when you said that. I was like, oh my God.
I love them. I feel like there is a push and a movement to change the narrative of LGBTQ spaces, because what you said was a sober space that's during the day, and that really hit, because I feel like that's we've kind of heard that narrative a couple of times now with the run clubs and things like that. It's not just about partying, it's not just about getting drunk and being in a club. It's changed, and we should be more diverse as a community. So I think that's really cool that there's a space like that.
Yeah.
I want to go visit.
I know.
I could already imagine you there.
I love it.
And it's for me, what was so interesting is a lot of the people I've known in the community, I didn't actually get to know them until I started seeing them during the day or early evening or in spaces that didn't revolve around alcohol. It's not like we don't have wine doing book launches or do certain parties. We do those things, but I think it's about having alternatives, you know, and options, because, you know, when I first came into the LGBTQ scene, it's like you can only be one type of queer person. That is the type of queer person that goes out, that parties, that drinks, that does this, that does that. But it's like there wasn't any other alternative. And if you didn't fit that box, then what do you do at night? Where do you belong? So, yeah, it's about having options, I think.
And I think that's so important, because I think of like those of our friends like in the past that you do kind of feel like a bit boxed in, and maybe like you're not part of the community if you're not in that kind of environment. So I think all these different activities outside of that is what the LGBT community is about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I love that.
And there's so many different parts of us, and I think it's important to be able to have spaces to share that. You know, if you're neurodiverse, where do you go? Do you know what I mean? There's so many type of us, and it's like, it's nice to have a break in different spaces and also meet different types of people in the community. And I feel that when it's only one-sided, then you don't get to expand your network in different ways, you know? And I think, for a while, I feel like a few of us have been missing out, not having alternative spaces.
And I guess it happened like in lockdown. A lot of investors were like, oh, there's a niche now. People want to do something different. Let's invest. And then as soon as they see that go down a little bit, they're like, oh, actually, let's go back to the old ways. And so
you're right.
I think people don't realize, because they think it's all equal now and accepting, they don't realize that there's still a need for that safe space for people part of the community, where like you can go and sit, like we could go there and sit and read a book and have a kiss without feeling like, even in London,
people watching and people going to think like, and being self-conscious about it, like it's just that safe space for the community, isn't it?
I mean, we see so much love happen there, heartbreak.
Really?
Heartbreak, love, heartbreak, all sorts of things. And for me, I just love seeing, like, perhaps after college or school, you see these young kids come in, you know, reading, going to the children's section, buying books, reading, and it's beautiful, because that's what I used to do, but I used to do them in public libraries. And that has changed. You know, community spaces, youth spaces have closed down. So where do you go in that sense? And some people come out late, you know, and how do you learn about who you are in different ways? How do you meet other people if you no longer fit that box of, being able to go out at night? You know, if you have certain disabilities. So, you know, there's so many intersectionality, like concepts and things we have to think about that we don't make room for, you know, and having spaces during the day or that can give people a chance to come to workshop, poetry, music night. We have this lovely collective that they play chess once a month. They all come together. They play music in the corner. Tribe, they're really cool. And I just think this is what it's all about, forming different communities and seeing yourself in different ways. Just so important.
Now, I know that you have a love for travel.
Yes.
Where did that start?
For me, my family has always been, inherently, so I was born in London, but I grew up in Nigeria, and my mum moved to the UK to be a nurse, because back then they were like, hey, come, we need you, we want to help, you know, we need help, there are jobs in the UK.
You'll be fine.
We'll be fine, lies, we'll treat you well, they say, all lies, you know, this dream. So she came here to be a nurse, she had me, but because of work life, I grew up in Nigeria with my auntie and my grandmother. And for me, one of the things that it taught me is just being in a different country. Growing up with people who look like me was really great for me, because I'm not like the minority. Everybody looked like me. And then being able to understand the need to travel. So I'm Hausa, so there are many different tribes in Nigeria, but Hausa people like to travel. So they inherently like travelers. They move around all across. So for me, traveling was something that I think I always had. And when I was 18, I wanted to just go somewhere. So I started from traveling to Italy. So I used to work there during the summer, from a few weeks to a few months, and then from then on, I'm like, where can I go? How can I travel but be paid? Yeah, because I was still a student. I was like, how do I travel but make money and not lose money? So I started doing those things, and then from then on, following the Olympics, I went to Brazil, and then different places that I could go. I just went. I'm like, let me just try it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's going on over there? How do they do? How queer people exist in here and there? All across the world, finding people who look like us, who are different, but just I used it as a form of self-development. Because you can't be your full self if you're always in the same place. Being able to move around and learn, I think, is so important.
Yeah.
And just getting away from where you are, I think, gives you perspective too.
Definitely. So did you leave Nigeria at 18 and then go to Italy, or did you come back to the UK at any point?
I came back. So I left London when I was 1.
Okay.
So my formative years were in Nigeria, and then I came back, finished school, went to uni here, and then I was like, oh, when I came back to London, I hated it. I was just like, oh, what is this? You know?
I feel like it's really hard. I'm not that aware of Nigerian culture, but from what I do know, there are quite a lot of similarities to Arab culture. And I think, I don't know if you found this, but it was quite hard not to come here and your friends are not your family, and they're not it's weird that they came over to the house and we'd make them dinner and they'd have sleepovers, and they would they were part of the family whenever they'd come visit, but we never were to them. We'd never go to their house. And I feel like that part of the integration into English culture was quite hard. Did you find that?
Yes, I agree. It's this community. I mean, for us, because of this time, my family are also Muslim. So during Ramadan, during Eid, everybody will come, the act of eating together, all of these things, you would have friends, cousins, everybody comes in. But whereas I find that in London, it's very difficult. People move in silos. We're a community, but then we're kind of not. I can't just rock up to your house.
No, you need to call, make an appointment.
Yeah. I can't just say, hey, I'm in the area, and then I open your door. You're going to go, what's wrong with this guy?
Excuse me.
Yeah, it's not going to be ideal, right? So one of the things I saw missing was this community actually being there supporting each other, and I didn't see that as much. I mean, I tend to see it outside, in smaller places. So I moved to Norwich for uni. So again, there was really nice communities there.
Smaller towns. Villagey, 100%.
Yeah, even though it's not as diverse, but there are communities that you're like, oh, this feels nice. It's a big warm hug, right?
Yeah, that's true. But it's one thing, I'm sorry, I just thought of, not to put you on the spot, but I'm just quite interested with the whole travel thing. Do you find your feedback potentially, or maybe your personal opinion, visiting countries where the LGBT laws are quite restrictive still? Because we've had a little bit of feedback on one of our videos recently, and I'm interested to see someone who's travelled.
Yeah, this question comes up a lot. I know, I guess it's about boycotting or not going places where LGBTQ rights are not there, or where queer people are not welcome. I say for me, I don't allow that to restrict how I travel or view the world, right? And one of the reasons is, as queer people, we exist everywhere, and we always have. I have my uncle lives in Dubai. I love Dubai. I go there. There are queer people in Dubai. I know trans people in Dubai, and they exist in different forms. And the same in African countries, in places where for us in all of these African countries. The LGBTQ community always existed, but it's because of colonialism. So for me, it's actually understanding our history, what we had in the past. And when I tend to travel, I try to go to spaces that are not just queer friendly, but places where I know the queer community can also exist. So supporting them in different ways, but also learning how queer people how queer people can exist there, because there's more than you think. There's so much that we see online, versus the reality.
Yeah.
And that's the thing for me. But also, if we're using the same notion, look at what's going on in the US, look at what's going on in Italy, look at what's going on here. If the rule was to apply the same, then we should be boycotting a lot of, like the Western world.
Yeah.
Because what I guess don't like as much is sometimes through marketing and social media, they'll go, for example, part of my family are from Ghana as well. And Ghana has this massive anti-LGBTQ laws that are out, so this will make it very difficult for queer people to exist. But it doesn't mean that I would never go to Ghana again, because, again, there are queer people there. I have family there as well. But also, if we apply the same rule, then we wouldn't go anywhere. And also, I think for me, it's important to raise awareness in terms of what's happening to these places, and actually find those joy in between as well. Because I was in, South Africa last year in one of the travel conventions, and there were actually allies that are from countries that I would never think would be accepting of me that were. They were like, oh, Aisha, you can't come to this country because it is homophobic, but also for people to realize that's the government. That's not always the people.
Yeah.
So I think it's putting things in perspective. That is very, very important. And for me, boycotting like that just isn't something that I think works for me, especially where I've come from and how I view the world. It's just something, that I don't, and also it's a privilege to boycott.
Yeah,
it's so hard.
It's so not, the way you put that was amazing, because
I'm a little bit emotional.
Yeah.
I'm like trying not to talk. Yeah,
because I think as well, LGBT looks different depending what country that you're in. We can't put Western ideologies across the whole world and be like, okay, well, if you're not running your country the way that we are and what we seem fit for our community, then we shouldn't go there. It's bad to be there, blah, 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 blah. But when we were in Dubai and we had loads of different conversations, even if it is legalized over there, gayness will look different. Do you know what I mean? It's a conservative country, so it's not going to be the way that you see it in London or other places in Europe.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I think, anybody who doesn't want to go to these places, they have the right to.
Yeah.
And that's what free will is about. And I think it's important not to impose what we think is best for others.
Yeah.
And the one thing I'll always say is, if you're traveling to any country where it is illegal, be careful, be safe. Make sure you tell people where you're at. There's so many precautions you should take, and that's not even about being queer. So when we remove the idea of queerness, for me, is as a woman, that's things I have to consider as a Black woman. So queerness is just one element that we talk about ourselves, but there are actually other things that we are worried about.
You just have to be aware of them.
Well, this is the thing. I think a lot of the comments really took me back, because it is privilege. It's a very Western ideology. It's was it cultural imperialism? Where it's what we do doesn't necessarily work with other cultures, and it shouldn't be imposed. But then telling someone, I found it really interesting, someone was talking about saving the Arabs in Dubai that are gay. And I was like, but you're annoyed that there's an Arab in Dubai talking about gay rights. So how are you saving? Can you not see the irony here?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of feeling of, I wouldn't go there. There was a lot of comments. I wouldn't go there. I wouldn't waste my money there. They don't accept me. But then if you're Black, there's places that you might not feel safe going. Does that mean you don't go there?
I have to be aware every time.
Or Muslim.
You go to a different country.
Or a woman, 100%.
And the other thing for me is, I think a lot of people don't understand what's out there. So, what you said about, you need to save the queer Arabs, they're struggling over there. Yes, this is very true. All across, and the same here. Loads of trans people are struggling. Loads of Black people. There's so many suffering going on. I mean, recently with disability benefits. We could go on and on with so many things that are going on right now. But one of the things to be aware is, in all of these countries, there are actually LGBTQ people that are fighting, and there are organizations who are doing these things. They don't need me, Aisha, who lives in London, to go over to save them. Right? So one of the things for me that I know is important is to strategize better and to support as a global movement. So where can we put our money and resources so that the queer people there can defend themselves? So that, you know, there's loads of asylum seeker and refugee charities. There's so many LGBTQ human rights charity. That's the work that they do. And for me, those are the people saving the queer Arabs, the black people, the African people from all of these things. And I'm a trustee for an organization called Give Out. And that's exactly what they do. You pull money and donations from across the world, individual corporates, and you distribute it so that our communities can defend themselves. If there's something going on, there's an earthquake, there's a natural disaster, there's a war, these funds go to them so that they can help themselves. If there is queer venues that have been, you know, destroyed for whatever reason, they have funds to build. You know, they can give to their community, they can thrive, they can empower themselves, as opposed to me going over to save, or whoever going over to save them. What we need is pulling resources and strategizing so that they can help. The same with legal rights in India. The money, you know, it didn't come from anywhere. Money and these organizations and queer organization in India and allies made this happen. It's not because I went over there to save them. Do you know what I mean? They are 100%. Doing it themselves, and I think it's important for people to understand. The same way in London, you know, when you look at the amount of charities we have, LGBTQ charity, that's the work that they're doing on the ground. But because sometimes they're not often the loudest, you don't tend to know unless you start to look, and then you realize the movements that is going on within our communities.
That's the thing, is like, if you boycott or you don't go somewhere, you're kind of telling the community there, like, you're not good enough for us, or you're not doing enough, or you're kind
of like leaving them like, okay, well, you deal with your government, we're okay over here.
It's so much more nuanced than social media. I think that point that you made was really good as well. It's like what you see on social media to what you actually experience when you're in these places is different. So
completely different.
How was your experience in Dubai?
I mean, it's fine.
That's it.
It's fine.
Literally.
I think the problem is as well is like people don't realize, like, don't go to Ghana because like, but you have family there. Like, it's all well and good for like a person who's not from Ghana, or let's like not beat around the bush. Most of the people are white, but like a white person in a Western country saying, I would never go there. Why would you go there? It's like, my family's there. Like, what do you mean?
You never meant to go to Jordan? Am I never meant to go to Sierra Leone? Do you know what I mean? There's
so many things that people ignore. So like, we went and saw friends and family, and it was fun. Like, it was cute.
And that's the thing. Like, at the end of the day, it's really interesting how, for me, the view of the world, like, we will romanticize Venice, we'll romanticize going to New York, all of these beautiful places, but the moment certain countries do the same, then we like clamp down on them a lot harder. You know, the same way you're like, oh, then we boycott Ghana, but I'm like, at this rate, we should be boycotting the UK
or the US.
The US, you know, there's so many things going on. We should be boycotting Europe, but we don't, because, you know, the way it's perceived as better.
And it's easy to push the blame onto other countries and what their legislations are like. Do you know what I mean? So
it's your business. It's the UK businesses and US businesses still giving money to those countries. It's not the people visiting. And like, also I feel like I think it's just oversimplified. I think by saying those kind of comments, quite easy from where you're at to be like, I wouldn't go there.
Of course.
But realistically, it's not something that's like reasonable for someone who's from there, especially. Like, and we were talking about Dubai, how it's like become very like built up and like westernized, let's say. And how is that a negative thing? You know, like you were saying, like Venice is like something, but when you see Dubai, I know a lot of people like it, but a lot of people say it's fake. A lot of people say it's not really Arab. It's not, and it only hit us this time. And I was like, is that weird to say? Like, why can't Arab countries look like this? And why can't Arab culture be like this? Like, why does it have to be?
Only the West can do that.
And outside of that, it's like, oh no, like.
And like when you talk to people about Kenya and Nairobi. And people are like, oh, I didn't know that's how it looked like. Like, it's like
I'm sure you were having the same thing. Why is the city then not all in huts?
That is crazy. It's so funny. And even when we go to like Jordan and we see like his family and that, like, and we'll post photos and stuff like that, and they're like, oh my god, I never thought it looked like that. And I was like, well, what did you think it was gonna look like? You're giving yourself away.
They drive cars.
We
do.
need to travel more.
What is it actually like, though, when you said about traveling? Because there's a lot of intersections, and I think it's really important to talk about your experiences. Like, what research do you do before you go somewhere? Because you've got like woman, black, and gay. Is that how you identify?
Yeah.
So what research do you do? How do you?
I think for me, it's looking at whether it's illegal to be queer there isn't a problem for me, because I know there's quite a few like jurisdictions and countries that are that. So that's, again, something I'm like, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
And like,
another one.
Yeah, cool, check. That's normally there. And then the second thing is, like, for me, is seeing what the queer community is like there. You know, doing research, seeing if I know anybody. And I think that's really important. But also just how you navigate anywhere at night. Because that's the hardest. In daytime, you tend to be pretty much okay, but it's at night. How do you navigate at night? You know, using like a reputable taxi firm, you know, making sure that people know where you are. Just basic things that wherever you are in the world, I encourage anybody to do. Even if you're in London, you know, like, don't carry your phone around and like be waving it when you're somewhere new. Like, just being mindful of your surroundings, I think, is really important. And make sure that, you know, you're not intoxicated in places that you don't know, with people that you don't, you know, just things like that, just to ensure that you're safe. And I think mainly, I mean, I know common sense isn't so much common all the time, but just literally common sense.
Yeah.
Don't do things that you wouldn't do at home. Don't take risks you don't know about, you know. Go with a travel company, for example, if you're new, if you're not sure. Just doing those things, and just be mindful that not everybody has the best intentions, and be willing to be surprised, because actually sometimes we expect the worst in people, and these countries that you might think are so homophobic have the most gentlest and most welcoming people you'd find in the world. In Ghana it's the same, in Nigeria it's the same. People that will help you. You get lost, they will leave everything and go, hey, let me help you. You know, and people that you wouldn't really expect to find, you know, it's it's a surprise out there.
Was there have you been to a country where you expected the worst and it completely like changed your mind about what it was
I think
to be like?
I think it's because of what I saw in social media and online and articles as well, because it's not just social media, it's articles too. The, I guess, like, media themselves and how they portray the world. It's Brazil. It's so big.
Oh,
it's
interesting.
So, for me, Brazil, you know, the whole idea of the favelas being so dangerous, you know, you see loads of like mass shootings, you know, so many things that didn't.
And loads of like just social media videos of like, don't take your phone out at all on the beach or you're gonna get
Our phones get nicked in East London.
It's no not new.
So if it gets nicked on a beach in Brazil, how's it different? You know, it's the same. With Brazil, I just didn't expect it to be so open, so welcoming. I hoped it would be, but what I loved about it is the fact that everybody also looked like all of us. It's so that you know, you have black people, you have Arab, you have Chinese, all mixed. All mixed.
It's quite a diverse place in general.
We can all be Brazilians. Like, it's so beautiful. And it had a lot of similarities to Ghana and to Nigeria because of colonialism.
Is there a lot of African influence in general?
Yoruba influence, the religion, the food. So there's a lot of culture like that gets blurred in between the two, which I love. So it just felt like home. I was like, oh wow, and people thought I was Brazilian, so it was great. I'm a
local.
I'm a local, and they treated me as one. You know, I learned a bit of Portuguese, and then, you know, I could just about blend. It was all right.
Muito bem.
Hey, que linda. You know?
That's all I'd be doing.
Or if you don't say anything, they just assume you are. So it's nice.
I love that. Going back a little bit, there was something that you said that I wanted to ask you about when you said, because I've read a few things online which kind of like surrounds this topic as well, but you talked about colonialism and how that almost brought over homophobia to Africa. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's right.
What information do you have on this? Because I feel like I've seen a couple of things, but I don't know the actual history of that.
Yeah, so a lot of, I would say, if I'm basing it on Ghana and Nigeria, because that's where I know the most. And so a lot of tribes always had homosexuality. So they were, women could marry other women. You had polygamy as well that existed within African countries, but the biggest change was religion. So when the religion came over, when colonialism happened, that kind of changed. So it was the idea that, oh no, this didn't look right. This isn't what should happen.
Yeah.
When the British came and, the Dutch came, but the Portuguese came, they all wanted African countries to be conservative, to follow their way of life. So it was due to that. And you would find loads of, like in Ghana, there's a Ashanti tribe. And what they were doing is, at some point, if you had a child, so there was also idea of gender, and third gender and transness as well that existed.
Which is also in so many different ancient civilizations, which seems to have been like wiped over current years.
It's
and
been
the idea
wiped.
of masculinity, I was going to say as well, is different.
Exactly. And earlier we were talking about Kenya. Actually, women tend to have short hair. And men will have longer hair. So, there's all these things that, the idea of gender expression is very, very, has always existed in African countries. And so when, all of these empires came to all these African countries, they wiped it off. And the biggest thing that also is still a problem right now is the idea of archiving and keeping our stories and our information. There's so many people that existed that were queer during that time, but we don't know about. And
just wiped from history completely.
Yeah, and not spoken about. And, even I would say my mum, we were celebrating my mum's birthday over the weekend. She's
Happy
17
birthday.
now. Yeah, she's 17. Everybody's like, that's your mum? I'm like, yeah. She doesn't look it. But even her, when I was talking to her about different things and stories around queerness, she was like, yeah, everybody was doing it back in the day. Like, you go to boarding schools and, women would be kissing other women and like everybody knew, but it's something they didn't talk about. And it's something they didn't want to tell their children or, the kids, because that idea of saying things out in the open didn't exist. It's something you shouldn't talk about. The same in Caribbean culture, you know. In Ghana, my mom was like, oh yeah, that guy is gay. We all know. He comes to church, he does this, he does all our hair. We love him, he's gay. But as long as you don't say it,
it's
not
that is
true.
so similar.
The same.
Yeah.
We all know the cousin that is queer, the uncle that, has
me.
been alone. You're that uncle.
I'm the cousin that like was like that one.
Everybody whispers, they know, but they don't really say anything.
Yeah.
That idea, but what I love is now I think more and more younger people are coming out. And even for me, when I came out, my mom was like, oh, you don't want too many people to kind of know. But the moment that kind of went away with time, some of her friends and people she knows, they were like, oh, I'm gay now.
Oh, okay.
They start coming out.
That's
They're
nice.
like, and then my mom called me one day, hey, Aisha, so Auntie said she's gay and she wants you to take her to lesbian clubs.
Oh my God, that's so fun.
Yes.
I was like, oh, really?
How the tables have turned, Mom.
Yeah, So, and then she was calling me for advice. I was like, this is nice. Because a lot of older generation felt like they had to hide. So many people go into the closet, and also they weren't perhaps in places where they could be themselves or weren't ready to. So it's nice to be in places where they can have that opportunity. But it has always existed, and I think the more of us understand this, the more, for me, I'm just trying to educate the older people to go, hey, there is this religion, but you are not told about this. This is not new. So when you have your child coming out, don't think it's new. Or your child is
Back
weird.
in my day, that would never happen.
It's very normal.
Yeah.
Very, very normal. And I think rewriting our stories, rewriting our history is so important.
Was your coming out experience like okay? Was it good, would you say? Or
I think it was okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was okay. Yeah, like anything is never perfect, and it's just about adapting and taking time. And I think people need time to get their head around things. Some people may never accept you, and I think also is learning when to let that go
okay.
and when to,
That's good. Yeah.
you know, like give
You can't-
people patience. There's the
Yeah.
I think you can tell the difference, and sometimes you let things breathe a bit and then see where it would go. And if it goes forward, great. And if it doesn't, you know, we make our families. We have our chosen families as well.
I think there's a lot more compassion in like more like of the ethnic gays.
Yeah, people of
because
colour, you need to because
have-
it's
yeah.
not in the culture in
Yeah.
general. Yeah.
I feel like that's quite nice because no one ever understood that when I came out to my dad, like giving him space and allowing him space to digest and
Yeah.
then seeing how it goes. It's like he should just accept you. I'm like,
Yeah, a lot of friends over here were like, well, why wouldn't he accept
yeah,
you?
it
It's
doesn't
like,
quite work that way.
it's a bit different.
It
So.
is. It is very
Yeah.
different. Strict cultures, strict religions. It changes things. Yeah.
100%. I'd like to ask you about UK Black Pride.
Oh, cool.
Yes. How long have you been involved? Since the beginning, or?
Oh no, I was just a baby.
She said 20 years.
That wasn't Shane, okay?
I'm 25. No, I'm not 25.
Since the beginning,
Yes.
40 years ago.
Actually, 20 years is not that far when we start to think of life. Things change so quickly. No, I wasn't. Where was I? I wasn't here. I was in.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why. I got involved 8 years ago, almost 8 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do
Nice.
you do?
Yeah.
What's the involvement?
I started just volunteering and then became volunteer manager and now head of community engagement.
Oh, that's fun.
Nice.
Yeah,
Fancy title.
yeah. It means I just do stuff within the community, and because I love meeting everybody and just different ways of making sure our community gets seen at UK Black Pride, but also in different ways. And it just really aligns with everything I do through travel, through the common press. So it just ties everything together, really.
And why do you think UK Black Pride is important for the community in general?
Because, you know, we spoke about earlier, a lot of people feel that, you know, there's so many prides that they'll go, why do you go to that pride? And there's so much privilege in saying, I don't want to do something.
Yeah.
It's not often the case for everybody else. We have a lot of asylum seekers and refugees that depend on, you know, the likes of the prides around the world and UK Black Pride, where actually some of them have never been to a pride before. You know, we forget that we have our first, second, third. After a while, you're like, oh, it's a bit boring, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or wish they did it different, or they're not good enough. You know, we all have our critique in a sense. But for me, UK Black Pride is so important because it's like coming home. You know, you don't have to explain. You're just coming home. All your friends and family are there. And it's just this big event that's just filled with joy. You know, when it started, people were like, hey, there shouldn't be a Black Pride. Why do you need a Black Pride? It's because up till now, you know, people think there's equality, but there actually isn't. There's still loads of racism that still exists. And also this need that we have to explain who we are. Our existence at UK Black Pride, you don't need to do that. That is gone. That's taken away.
Yeah.
The moment you like enter, you know. So so you don't need that. You know, you can remove that cloak. You don't have to think about it in that way. And it's just ultimately about coming together in a day of joy. And you know, I don't know if many people know UK Black Pride is free, and that's something that has been very difficult for us to do over the years because things cost money,
Yeah.
you know?
Where's the funding coming from?
Yeah, and I think access is important. You know, this is something Lady Phil, the co-founder of UK Black Pride, speaks about all the time. Accessing things because there's so much barrier, so much that we have to go as Black people and people of colour. And that's something we don't want people to feel that it's an additional barrier. You just come as you are. You know, and celebrate with your community, with allies and people that are for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's really important. We don't often feel that spaces are for us.
Yeah.
You know, and so for us, being able to do this is incredible. UK Black Pride, I think 2 years ago, became the world's largest Black Pride. You know,
Okay.
and it's free.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's just, yeah, beautiful. You know, we talk about allyship in different forms, and it's so important, like, especially, you know, I was talking about this, the common press and space and working with allies. People want to help when it's trendy. You know, so the venue as well, you know, Black Lives Matter happened, 2020, everybody wants to do their best. They want to be anti-racist, all of these beautiful things. But it takes time. You're not going to solve racism because you gave UK Black Pride a bit of money. You're not going to solve all of these
Why not?
things. You know, it's like, oh, we gave you this money. Is it gone now?
Are you guys okay now?
Like that's surely enough. But it takes time and it takes years. It's a relationship, and it's a relationship that you build, you know, over time, so that eventually you start to see impact in things that you're doing to a particular group of community. But then also, you know, UK Black Pride were based in London. You know, there are queer people up in Birmingham, Manchester, Leeds. So again, we need to understand how the world works as well. Again, then if you ask, let's say every queer Black person and person of colour feels free in London, what about the rest? You know, what about the rest of the world? So there is so much that needs to be done in different places, and it's for people to understand that it doesn't happen overnight.
And I think also, like, what's interesting with UK Black Pride is obviously, like, everyone's welcome to, like, come in, but, like, I think it's quite nice to just focus on, like, Black people and people of colour in the gay community. I don't think that's done enough. The gay community right now, to me, feels like it's a little bit of a facade of, like, acceptance and love to some aspects, because when you actually see the people engaging, like, they're not very nice. There's a lot of people want to take other people down. It's not as accepting as you want it to be. And to me, the LGBT community now feels like it's just coming into fourth wave feminism at the time. That's what it kind of feels like, because we're kind of aware of intersectionality, we doing a little bit of lip service towards it, but it actually takes those people to make that difference, to see those people and see those differences. And it took a long time with feminism. I mean, I don't fully think feminism's there yet anyway, but I think that's why UK Black Pride to me is so important, because it can easily get swallowed up with the other things in the community, especially with men as well.
That's what's happened. That's what happened, is it gets, like, buried into everything. It's like, oh, it's queer, it's gay, it's okay. But the thing is, people need to understand, like, even for me, when I'm talking about myself, you see that I'm a Black woman first, and then you're like, oh yeah, Aisha's queer. I mean, I don't know if you go, she's queer then Black. I don't know, but that might happen. But I'm all of those things, right? And I feel that an element that you can't erase or hide is that part. It's our race. We walk with it first, and then, you know, we
it's
introduce
the first thing people see.
You know, naturally, right? And within the community, there is still racism, there is transphobia, there is all these things. This is the reason why, for us, UK Black Pride is so important. And for me, I love being part of different communities, you know, as I travel, as I move about, but it's also important to have our space. You know, as you say, UK Black Pride is for anybody, for allies, you know, and one of the reasons is all of us have different forms of partners. We all find love with different people. So we can't say, hey, you can't come because you're not Black, but if you're an ally and you're for us, you're welcome to come with your friends, with your partners, with your community, fine. You know, and I think one of the things is we don't want to be the same type of people that kind of shut us down, that exclude us in this space.
You want to be open, because you know how it feels like when other parts of the community do that.
Exactly. And, you know, when certain people come that are not Black or POC to UK Black Pride, they're like, oh, this is what it should feel like. It's like, it should feel free and liberating.
And anyone can come.
And anybody can come. And, you know, because that's so important, especially in this political climate as well, to be able to be with people that are for you. Honestly, it makes such a big difference. And also, it allows you to build up again, to wake up, to carry your year the next day, and also to inspire the next generation so that they know that there are people who look like them. I mean, one of the things that I struggled with growing up was, you know, I was growing up hearing that being queer was un-African. So I was like, oh, I can't be African then if I'm queer. Because
Yeah.
I look at like the media and market, everything. When they were representing gay people, it was white people or white lesbians. So I'm like, so we're also black people aren't gay?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on?
Black people aren't gay though.
Yeah.
Because genuinely, 2012,
Yeah.
I'd say, the amount of people that were shocked to see gay black people, lesbian or gay men, was insane. Like I
Really?
did, yeah.
Oh.
Like the white friends that I had when we used to go to heaven and stuff, they're like, I don't know why, I just didn't really think about black people being gay. And I'm like, that is so crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? It was so wild. But they were comfortable enough to say it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the world they lived in,
Yeah.
and that's what they were seeing. And
Yeah.
then we, on the other side, were seeing that.
Yeah.
So we're like, sure, clearly we can't be gay. So there's something wrong with us.
There's something different. Yeah, there's something different.
They're like, yeah, you clearly can't be gay. I was like, what? So, but I am. So what am I?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's very, very confusing, especially when you come from a place where, you know, religion is, you know, plays a big part. And because of that, you're like, clearly I'm the only one. You know, I'm this black girl in Nigeria. My family are Muslim. Where are the queer people at? We clearly don't exist, which isn't true. We've always existed.
Yeah.
And I think it's being able to see yourself. And at UK Black Pride, you see everybody, you know. And I think for me, it's being able to see yourself grow old in the type of people that we see.
Oh, yeah, cute.
You know, one of the volunteers that we have, she's heading to her 80s, you know, hearing stories from older queer people, our queer elders. It's beautiful, realizing the journey that they've gone through.
And they laid the pathwork for us to be here and be
Exactly.
accepted in the way that we are.
Exactly. And I think that's something I'm just like, oh, you know, because when I was younger, I'm like, clearly it's been queer is un-African. How am I going to be an old queer
African
woman?
lady.
Yeah, like we're the African. You know, and I think visibility is so important. This is one of the reasons, you know, when I moved back to London and I saw Lady Phil's from Ghana, I was like, oh my God, a Ghanaian lesbian?
Fun.
What? Like, this is real?
Yeah.
So
That's so nice though.
Yeah.
That's why it's so important. That's amazing.
yeah,
To
the
see
little
yourself
things,
reflected.
the little
Yeah.
things, and you know, it's a little thing, but it's big. You know, it changes things.
Yeah.
Um,
I loved what you said about obviously everyone feeling accepted, but I also really like the fact that it's important to feel accepted, but it's also your own space. And I think people have such a tough time with that when it's like, I mean, you walk into any pub, especially outside of London, and it's a white man's space, but no one says anything there. But like, if you have a queer space and race is a part of it, it feels like you're not allowed to have that.
yeah,
And it's really
People
strange.
have something to say about it.
Especially
do.
like, because there was I can't remember what it's called. There's like a lesbian club in Soho that doesn't allow men or something.
Her or
Oh, it's a
she?
Sheba.
Sheba.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Women
remember
only
people
space.
talking about that, and I was like, but you, it's not one size fits all. Like you have to
Yeah.
understand there's power dynamics
Yes.
here.
And the
at
gay
play.
community is also dominated
By
by
men.
gay
By men.
men.
But-
There's enough
yeah.
spaces, and do you know what? This issue is something that I see all around the world. It's not just UK based or London
Yeah,
based.
everywhere.
It's all around the world.
We talk
Yeah.
about gay rights, but we think of a man.
Yeah.
And we think,
Yeah.
and even if it's not the race, we think of men, and men in the gay community. It's so, I mean, we really want to be accepting. We really want to like stand with women, and like there's all of that, but it almost that we deny that we still carry toxic masculinity.
Patriarchy is
Yeah.
kind of.
We deny
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
you can see it clearly with like the way we think. Bottom is feminine, top
Yeah,
is masculine.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's all within our community. Like how are we pretending like we don't like
It's
perpetuate
there,
it?
and I feel like, I mean, I'm glad, like being at the Common Press, I see more and more like gay men and queer men coming in and different forms, because for a while I'm like, oh, then gay men are all the same.
Yeah.
You know, because of how, like, in the world we've been navigating together, you know, the power dynamics have always been there. And then, you know, like through travel, what I was doing with my company, Moonlight Experiences, was that I was meeting more gay men that they were like, I don't want to go to a gay club because I don't fit, like, I'm not that person. I don't fit a certain body type, or I don't fit a certain way of being a gay man. So we also put gay men into that box. That all gay men are the same. Clearly, you all love clubbing. You all love doing this. You all love doing that.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
that's
like,
fun. I've not heard that.
you know?
Yeah, that's fun.
And then I was like, actually, no. Some gay men also like being in quieter spaces. They want to be in the bookshop. They want to do poetry. All of these things. But we forget.
Yeah.
Because of what the dynamics have been for years. We don't have many spaces where it's not that we can't party together. We have loads of spaces, but where we can talk together.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think more and more now we're starting to do that. And it's great. And I'm like, of course we should. Not all gay men are the same, you know?
Yeah.
And we're all human, just like in the straight community, like there's different types of people that enjoy different things.
Of course.
It's the same in the gay community as well.
Yeah. And there's problems at either side. Like I feel like the gay men in the community, if they want to be part of the community, like it's on us to do that work to try and undo or make it visible that we still carry the patriarchy with us. Like I think it's our job to do that. That's why I think sometimes LGBTQ plus clumped together murkies the water of like
it really does.
Yeah, so I feel like that. And then I also obviously there's different areas and different parts of the community that do their own work. Like I remember we spoke about there was like who was that with? Anyway, we spoke about like toxic masculinity being exemplified in the lesbian community because then you have the side of being so masked that you're almost perpetuating the same things you're fighting against. Like there's so many things. It's complicated.
So many things. And again, like toxic masculinity in the trans community as well.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when you start to like dissect it all and put in, there's so many layers. And because there's these layers, I think it's important that we talk about it and also have spaces.
Safe
you know,
spaces,
like, and have these kind of safer spaces, you know, whether you want to be at UK Black Pride, whether you want to be in women-only spaces and spaces that are inclusive for the trans community as well. That is so important to bring it all together as well. And at some point also, I just think that we need more of them, not just one.
Yeah.
You know, and there is this weird thing I find also within the community where you can only have one thing. You
one
know,
gay club.
One size fits all kind of thing.
Yeah, because people like, there's this weird competition that goes on. I see it as well within loads of people that I know that are performers, where a lot of venues don't like to have more than one person of colour on the lineup. 2 or 3 is too much. And I was like, but
this brings you back to the modelling industry where it was like you could have one black model
like,
in a shirt.
Could you imagine if you have 4, what is this? Maybe only Black History Month they'll give 4. I don't know.
They have some lip service.
We're amplifying the community and we're inclusive. But it needs to be more. And I feel for a while we've been competing against each other when we should be working together. I see as well when people do something wrong, then let's cancel them. It's over. Let's come at them. I'm like, come on, right now, you know, maybe later we can get back to that. But right now, the whole world is against us. If not now, when are we going to unite? When are we going to come together? When are we going to build? Because if we build and we're together, we're far more resilient. They're not going to pick us off, you know. And I've been saying this a lot, but I don't think our community understand how powerful we are. One, money talks, and I say this because if we were a country, we'll be the 4th largest economy in the world. You know, and that is big. You know, money talks in terms of certain places that are not that don't legalize homosexuality. You know, when prides and these things are happening, loads of Airbnbs, loads of hotels, they go up 1,000%. Like, you know, the wealth and things we build within our economy is big, but we don't feed it back into our own either. And I think there's a notion where we need to think, there's so much we should be doing together. You know, so many queer venues, lesbian-led, queer women-led, that you should be also supporting. How is it that we're in London that we don't have many lesbian or queer women-run venues? Black, you know, there's not many.
No.
You know, you can count in your fingers how many spaces are owned by queer women of colour, black women, gay men. There's not many. And I think we need to like reevaluate what we've been doing.
100%.
To do better, because we can. It's not like it's not there.
Competition needs it's like the pink pound, isn't it? The spending power of the LGBT.
The queer community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so important, and I think it gets missed, or it probably gets ignored on purpose,
Yeah.
so that it doesn't have to be talked about. Is like the spending power of the community is something we should not advertise.
And even the way that the community can make certain artists blow up.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like a lot
Yeah.
of straight artists benefit from the queer community.
Yeah.
Like we almost allow them to be. I think of people like Beyonce, Chappelle. Do you know what I mean? Like
once you get behind them, there's like
yeah, the power and the things we bring into culture, music, art, fashion, you know, it's there.
Education as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like, it's really, because we wouldn't even be talking about gender at universities or ecofeminism or intersectionality if it wasn't for us. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
100%.
well, I'm proud.
Yeah. You know, we should embrace that more and know what our worth is, you know. And people who right now are against our community are not for us. So what are we doing, giving our time and energy to them? People who are ripping off back and rolling back their DEI initiatives and all of these things, we're like, wow, when times gets tough, what do people do? They run away.
Yeah.
You know, that's when
yeah.
they should stand by you.
Yeah, and even within, I think that's the other thing. Like, I like to, maybe when it's safe for us in the community to talk about it, as opposed to like when like heteronormative people are listening, because then they've got more ammo against us. But like within us, like we should be aware that like there's more work to be done within the community to make it a safer and better place.
Yeah.
Because even when we talk about like, because when you mentioned Beyonce, I won't be long, but when you mentioned Beyonce, I was just thinking like there is like such a beauty of like gay men's appreciation of black women and that kind of, but then there is also the other side of like the almost like appropriating black women's like personalities and style,
like, especially African American women. Like I feel like a lot of the community outside tends to mimic.
Yeah, and I feel like that's something culture. That like within we should be able to talk about. Like just because you're in the community doesn't mean you can't be homophobic.
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you can't be racist. Yeah. It doesn't mean you can't be trans. Like, I feel like people have this shield. They're like, we're part of it. It's like, yeah, but you can still be those things.
You really can. And you know, like we've had different experiences in different spaces, traveling, most recent as well, you know, in spaces that are either women-led or run by gay white men. And these spaces, I'm like, it doesn't matter who goes into them. If you're queer or if you're even an ally, you should always feel welcome.
Yeah.
And again, this element of who, you know, you are that plays a part that you don't feel welcome in that respect. Yeah. And I think people don't want to listen. They don't want to see it as well. You know, similar to what you're saying, when you bring up these topics, they're like, oh, but what do you mean? I'm just appreciating. What do you mean? That's not true. We're not racist. We're not transphobic. We're welcoming to everyone. And I think people need to understand that you can't be welcoming to everyone when you're applying the same thing. You know, it's like, oh, this gay white man feels welcome here, so why don't you?
Yeah. That's very true, actually. So I don't get it. Everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
Like, what's the problem?
And 99% of people that come here are feel great and they love it. But you're that 1%. Clearly, you're the problem, not us. That's how often they see. And I think it's the lack of awareness and education, but also the fact that people aren't realizing they're excluding whole communities that could be for them. You know, that will support them, that will be loyal, that will come back again. You're missing out, in a business sense, on customers. That's
it's true.
If we're talking about it in that way.
Money.
So it's like we say that queer spaces are closing down or there isn't enough. Yeah, because also you're excluding a whole community too.
Yeah. Final thoughts. Any advice that you would give to your younger self or someone who's listening that's in a similar position?
I would say be patient. And also, I think life has a way of slowly taking you to where you need to be. So be patient, trust yourself, trust your gut, I think. Will be a good one. And that, find yourself some good people, you know, fall in love, fall out of love. You know, you find your person eventually. And also mainly, like, just be happy with who you are first, because then you'll be able to accept others.
Oh, that's cute. Thank you. I love that.
Thank you so much for joining us. That was such
I
a
love
beautiful
that so much.
conversation.
Yeah, I could talk to you two for hours. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Bye.